Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Mandalorian review right here on Dedicated to Art. I'm your host, Kees Cornelissen, joined by just Chris Doman today. Nico couldn't be here because, um, we're having some issues with recording. As you can see, Chris is not on his usual setup. It's a different setup. Anyway, we are reviewing Chapter 3, The Sin, the third episode of Mandalorian today. Which, yeah, in my opinion, this is the best episode so far. Chris, how do you think about this episode?
Holy crap! This thing was incredible. I loved it. Plain and simple, I loved it. Like honestly, if we weren't having such major tech issues here behind the scenes, I would be jumping up and down, giddy as a schoolgirl, and freaking out because it's not just us who love this. It seems like the entire Star Wars fan base who
Yes.
they can never agree on anything. We actually are all like, yes, this show, this episode, Baby Yoda, like this is who would have thought this would be what finally unites the fan base?
Who'd have thunk, right? Yeah, this
Absolutely.
honestly, Baby Yoda seems to truly unite the fan base. It's like one thing that everyone can agree on. Is one of the cutest things that they've ever done in Star Wars, if not the cutest thing. And there's this, oh man, like the visual storytelling, the way that they don't use as much words to get everything across, the way that they just have this Mandalorian be as badass as he is, but still we get some glimpses, and we'll get into that because let's get into this episode. We see the
Yeah.
Mandalorian coming out of a hyperspace after the last episode, because the last episode I felt like was kind of a weaker episode, simply because of what the first episode did. But this one truly showed what the last episode did, and that was building the relation between the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. Of course, I'm calling him Baby Yoda like the rest of the internet
Yeah.
is. We don't have a name for him yet, but that's why I'm calling him Baby Yoda. But yeah, like it truly showed the like a relation building between the two. But yeah, the Mandalorian comes out of hyperspace. Grief Karga, played by Cole Weathers, contacts him. He says the client wants the asset delivered immediately, directly, as quickly as he can. In the meantime, Baby Yoda climbs out of the crib. He tries to grab for the control stick, and it's just so cute. And oh man, it's adorable. Seriously,
It's it
and
it it, it, it it's too much. Like, and I love how that moment is gonna have so much payoff about 10 minutes later in this
yeah,
episode,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and because and that's the thing, like Favreau and Filoni knew that if they're going to have these
Yep.
quote unquote cute moments in these episodes, they have to pay off later. You can't just put them in and expect us just to go ooh oh, it's so adorable. But if it can resonate to something much stronger later on, which it will, you know, that's the brilliance of that visual storytelling, as you mentioned up top, Case. Yeah, seriously, this episode.
Yeah, th- this episode was so much like the Mandalorian goes to the client, actually gives the asset, and initially I wasn't entirely sure what he was going to do with it because, as we already said in the last episode, we didn't know, will he just give it to them? He does actually. He does exactly what they agreed upon, and in return, he got he gets a lot of Basker metal. Like in the first episode, he only got the one piece, but now he gets a lot more, and he actually is able to craft an entire armor out of it. However, he does ask, "What will you do with it?" And that makes them like, "Hey, this is not what your reputation told us about. You are supposed to just give us the asset and ask no questions." But he does ask the
As
question,
as a
"What
member of
will
the
you
guild,
do?"
you are expected to receive commission and receive payment and forget about it from there.
And that's
Like
it.
honestly, you want to talk about a creepy, awesome performance. Werner Herzog in this scene right
Yeah,
here.
Jesus,
Holy crap. That's amazing.
it truly is. So yeah, he gets a medal. He asks, but they don't really respond. But he just goes back to the Mandalorian cave with the Beskar medal to make an entire armor out of it because just the shoulder piece, of course, wasn't enough. We wanted to see more. We wanted to see Captain Phasma, pretty much, because that really is what, like, Irina and I were watching this, and she was like, this looks like Captain Phasma. I'm like, yep, that's pretty much it. Like Chrome
A little bit.
Mandalorian, but my God, it looks awesome. However, there is a John Favreau voiced Mandalorian in there who is not the biggest fan. It seems that the Mandalorians aren't having the biggest like the best understanding agreement between the Mandalorians because, well, some of them want to come out of the hiding that they're in. However, some of them realize this hiding place that we're at, this is the way. This is the way.
This is the way.
It's the I have spoken from the previous episodes. It's like the sentence of the episode. They all say this is the way because yeah, the Mandalorians have been in hiding for a while, and they don't want to expose themselves yet because that'll ensue chaos probably. Um,
Yeah.
knowing the Mandalorian culture. Um, but yeah, the Mandalorian gets his metal armor, and in the meantime, we once again get some flashbacks, and these flashbacks get more interesting this time because we see glimpses of a separatist dropship, as we see on the Battle of Kashyyyk. We see a super battle droid actually wreaking some havoc with the family. And Chris, were your thoughts on seeing the separatists involved in this?
Of course, I'm excited for this. I am like, as a prequelist,
Yeah,
anytime I can get those little nuggets that just continue to add to the lore of Star Wars, I I'm always down for that. And you know what? Okay, I love Super Battle Droids. Like I actually do. Even though they didn't necessarily look that great in 2 and 3, sure, fine, whatever. This thing
the ga-
looked scary.
the games do them more justice, and even the Clone Wars do them more justice than the actual movies.
Yeah, and like no, and as I'm watching all this carnage going around, I'm watching people die, and I'm seeing the super start to come out from the rubble, and it's just shooting its arm cannons. Like it almost looks like it's a slasher villain with how it's just
Yeah,
coming out and mowing fools down. You're just like, holy crap! Like good job, good job, Favreau, for having this be again just putting the details together of how the Mandalorian came to be. And I love how with each episode we're only just getting little pieces, little nuggets. We're just essentially building what would be like, let's say a 20-minute short film once the season's over, but we're just getting those little glimpses right now. And I especially love it at the final bit when, presumably the younger version, the Mandalorian's in the bunker, and that explosion goes off in the background, and we have to assume his parents were just killed. That's
I would
that's
think
gut
so.
wrenching right there.
Yeah, yeah. It just instantly it gives us so much without giving us anything really because we still don't know anything about this character really. We only have some assumptions really, but yeah, there's nothing really to go off on, and that is what I adore, that it, like, the show is giving us everything but nothing at the same time, where you're like, I'm so interested in this because I've seen a couple of things that I want to know so much about, but I don't know anything about. So yeah, I just I am so interested to see more about his past, about what has happened to his parents, what who he really is, because he says that he claims that he never took off his helmet. If that's the truth, we don't know. But if he didn't, why didn't he? I don't know. There's just so much
Well,
that I
actually,
want
to actually getting that for just 2 seconds, like no, that actually is a real thing that was part of the Mandalorian culture, especially if you go back to some of the legends, comics, and books that were set around the time of the Mandalorian Wars, and even before then. That's kind of like their armor is essentially who they are,
yeah.
and if let's say they took off their helmet, that means they're revealing uh, more than they should, at least to the public person. Like the only people that a Mandalorian is supposed to take their helmet off around is their significant other and their children. That's it.
That's interesting because Sabine does take her helmet off around the Ghost Crew, so that at least suggests to me that
Because
she's very close with the Ghost Crew.
exactly, like well, because they were her family.
Yeah,
They were the ones who took her in and embraced her as one of their own. So you know, and sure, and there have been Mandalorians who kind of broke that rule from time to time. I mean, Jango Fett also broke that rule from time to time, but for
also
him, it was
that
also
was in front of his son most of the time.
yeah, and
So
also in fairness, he was trying to sort of hide some of some of who he was,
yeah,
especially in
no,
like Attack of the Clones.
that's true. Anyway, the Mandalorian gets his full Beskar steel armor. It looks amazing. It truly does. And he goes back to Karga for, well, another job. The other job he gets, but he does once again ask what happened to the kid. He doesn't know. And he's really interested, like, what happened to this kid? What is going to happen? And the response is like, we don't ask these questions. We're not supposed to know this stuff. You're supposed to just deliver the acid and shut the F up, but there is, of course, this intrigue, and this is, essentially confirms what we thought in the last episode. He does care. He does care about the kid. He does want to know more, and he doesn't want to just let it go. So instead of taking off, while he's trying to take off, he decides to not go. He goes back to the place. He takes out the droid thing that comes out of the wall. Like "F you, go away." Stormtroopers come out to see what is happening here. He takes out so many stormtroopers, and seriously, just him being a badass, taking out all these stormtroopers, is true payoff of this first episode where he was surrounded by these stormtroopers who said, "We got you 4-1." I like those odds. Yeah, he does like those odds. Like he has no issue taking out any of these stormtroopers because they're just
Oh
drums.
yeah, absolutely, and it also comes and again, you got the whole setup and payoff thing where as the Beskar steel is being made, uh, he has the opportunity to have something engraved on the armor and he declines it, and
Yeah.
instead the spare metal is used to make something called whistling birds. I'm like, whistling birds, what does that mean? Well, we see what that is when he's surrounded 4-1, and it's awesome. But there actually is one
Hmm.
thing we forgot to mention. So you know how I mentioned that
Oh,
Baby Yoda was playing with the control stick
yeah.
at the very opening? That because that little piece is still off of the actual control stick,
Yeah.
you know, that's what convinces him to actually go back for Baby Yoda. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah. That's true.
oh, that's so cute.
It's so cute. Yeah, it truly is.
Oh,
And that's why he goes back. He faces so many stormtroopers, and not only does he just take out some stormtroopers, oh no, he uses his gadgets. And those gadgets, oh man, they pay off. And oh man, are they awesome because he uses
flamethrower.
a flamethrower to completely burn a stormtrooper to death. Like, oh my god, yes! Like this is the type of stuff that you just want to see him do. Like burn him to death. Then he's surrounded by 4 people, like there, and he just uses a gadget, and they're like poop, 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 all gone. It reminded me of Yondu with his whistling arrow from Guardians of the Galaxy, like boop, 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 and you're gone, and we're through, and we just go past you. It's like just yeah, this is so awesome. I truly adored the scene
No,
of him
it,
just taking. You go.
it was a total moment straight out of the video games. Like,
Yeah.
whenever I played Star Wars Bounty Hunter, like I rarely ever shot anyone. I would always try to, use my rockets, or I would always try to use the flamethrower, or whatever else I could use, like a grappling hook or whatever. Oh my god, the way he takes it on one guy, the grappling hook.
Yeah.
You know, no, and yeah, it was a total fan servicey thing, but I loved it. I absolutely
It
loved
made
it.
perfect sense. Like this is
Yes.
the good type of fan service when you have good fan service that also makes sense. And also, just before he gets into the base, he looks at the client and the doctor through his scope, which actually has some kind of listening tech where he can listen to their conversation through the wall. That was also really cool to see. Like that type of tech, those type of gadgets really make the Mandalorian, and that's something that we already saw in Rebels a little bit, where Sabine used her gadgets and Mandalorian tech to better the Jedi, because that's really how they have to better anyone. If they're
Mm-hmm.
Jedi or whatever, it's like that's how they make sure they're better than anyone else. And it's really cool to see that kind of tech in the show. Actually, makes me wonder: will we see him go to like a Q type character, Q from James Bond, to actually get
Well,
some gadgets?
I mean, we've kind of gotten that with the head of the clan.
Yeah. No, but
The weapons
I
lady.
felt so far I felt that was a little bit more like M, but
Fair
also a
enough.
little bit like Q. But like as a big James Bond fan myself, that was kind of like yeah, I like that stuff, and I want to see more of that. Um, Anyway, because of the fact that he took the asset from the doctor, now all the bounty hunters get a signal from, hey, the asset is close. All of them get the signal, and therefore all of them are like, oh, we need to go, we need to get this guy. So they completely surround him. He's like, yeah, you know what? I know I'm surrounded, but I'm not gonna give it to you. I'm just gonna do my own thing. And he starts shooting. He gets on a speeder bike. He tries to get out of there. Um, doesn't quite work. Seriously, this entire shootout, the way it plays out is phenomenal. It is awesome. It is gritty. It is why I love the show already. Because the action is so good and it makes perfect sense from a character standpoint, from the standpoint of the bounty hunters, Carl Weathers' character, Karga, and of course the Mandalorians come in to save the day. And my God, like, isn't this the Iron Man 3 moment where all the suits just come in to help him?
Pretty much. Like it starts off like something like you see out of John Wick,
Yeah.
where it's one man versus an entire army, and we all know that the one guy could take them all if he wasn't trying to also protect Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to do two things at once, he has a little bit of a disadvantage. And yeah, like I'm genuinely surprised that the Mandalorians did come to his rescue at the end of the episode, but I'm like, oh no, this makes perfect sense, because at first they were pissed at him because he committed the sin of giving Baby Yoda back to Werner Herzog. But because they see that he actually went back on that bounty and decided to do the right thing, they were like, no, okay, we forgive you, we'll help you, but this is going to cost us, and you better make sure that we can, start over fresh. Which, yeah, that they saw that he restored his own honor. He had lost it in the beginning of this episode when he gave Baby Yoda, but he restored his own honor by rescuing Baby Yoda.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, he decides to actually save Baby Yoda against all odds, against everyone who is against him, because yeah, he seems to really care about it now, and that is where truly the last episode pays off, because the last episode built that relation, and he also knows there's so much more to this little kid than anyone really thinks, because well, he might not fully understand the force, but the fact that something like that happened with the uh, creature, it's not the reek, by the way. It's something else.
It's yeah, I
Um,
say like we just call it the Reek's cousin.
yeah, because well, it's similar like creature, but yeah, because of the fact that something happened and he doesn't fully understand what, but he does have a hunch like this may be the force and this may be something way bigger than any of us. He does want to care for it. Also, John Favreau's voiced Mandalorian shows up with a jetpack and a minigun, and like everything about that is just insanely awesome. I just freaking adored all of that, and I'm like, please, just more of this. As I already mentioned, I adore the tech, and this was more of the tech. So yes, please. That was just awesome. My God, I
Yeah,
could go
no, I
on.
mean it.
I could go on fanboying
Yeah,
for this for days.
I mean I don't blame you because again, someone who really studied up on a lot of the old Republic stuff, like this is exact, and plus their attack pattern, I actually recognized from one of the comics of the Mandalorian Wars, where I believe it was one of the battles early on in the war where the Mandalorians just came in and smoked everyone. I think it was Onderon actually. That was
Okay.
essentially one of their attack strategies on Onderon. But of course, on a bigger scale, and there was like 200,000 troops doing this. But still, the fact that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni like dove so deep into the Mandalorian lore that they're dredging up all of these old little tidbits just to throw in there. And here's the thing: unless you know it, you're just like, oh, this is really cool. And then once you,
Yeah.
but if you like actually know it, then you're like, ah, I recognize that. So
Fan service. Yeah, no,
yeah,
this is also something that I've noticed in a couple of episodes so far that because I'm watching it with my girlfriend, well, who doesn't really know anything besides the movies, and she's seen Rebels, but that's all. She likes it, but she doesn't recognize those type of things from Legends that we do. And every time I'm like, oh, I recognize that, I recognize that, and she's just like, okay, sure, it's cool, whatever. But that's what is really good. Like the fan service things aren't a very important part. They're just nice little nuggets for us insane fans who know everything to just recognize. And that's what the show is doing really well.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, Anyway, then at the end, Karga actually appears to be back on the ship, of course, because he recognized, okay, every one of my guys are being shot down by these Mandalorians. The only way I could potentially salvage anything out of this, I go to his ship. But at the ship, well, the Mandalorian is too smart for him. He uses the carbonite to create a fog, and he shoots him actually. The shot isn't lethal, so the Karga still survives. But still, Karga is off the ship. He goes away, and well, good. However, we see that Karga managed to survive because there's a block of Beskar metal or protecting him.
Yep, and
Like
I'm glad that when the Mandalorian went to go meet uh Karga in the cantina, like he actually showed him that, oh well, they also paid me two things of Beskar steel. And the way that I noticed he was shot, I'm like, oh, oh, that's how he said. Okay, that makes sense because again, setup, payoff. Yeah, and I'm really glad that they didn't kill him off because I'm like, he's definitely going to be around a lot more than just his first few episodes, right? You know,
Yes.
and that's good because now that he's kind of messed up, I want to see if he's able to redeem himself. I want to see if he's able to, uh, stop trying to betray the Mandalorian and just work with him.
I hope so too. Well, anyway, that's pretty much the entire episode. So, what are your overall thoughts after seeing it?
Holy crap! This show is great. This show is great. I'm loving the storytelling. I'm loving Deborah Chow. Sorry, I want to give us some serious props to her for directing this episode. Deborah Chow. Holy crap! If this is the level of quality that you are going to give us for stuff like this, yeah, you better believe I'm ready for that Obi-Wan series that you were going to direct every single episode of. So, yeah. And also Ludwig Göransson again with the music. Good Lord. Like, he's so good at just bringing in these instruments that, again, you don't normally associate with Star Wars. And, heck, I heard trap beats. Something in pop music I absolutely despise, but somehow the way that he's using them is sort of like in the background of some of his more sinister or vague themes, like when the Mandalorian's walking through the streets of the city.
Mm-hmm.
It fits perfectly. So yeah, literally, I don't have a bad thing to say about this episode. Literally, I don't even have a critique. Like, this is exactly how I would have done this episode.
Yeah. No, this I've seen the rating on IMDb. This is with a reason the highest rated episode of the show so far because I adore that first episode and I think that it was the perfect start. But yeah, like it needed to start the show. It did have a couple of things that ticked me off, mostly the puppeteering, but this episode just, my God, the shootout at the end, it was emotional. You care for everything, and it's because one, Baby Yoda is so goddamn cute, and it seems to win over every single Star Wars fan in this day and age, which is pretty much impossible to do these days. So that's just amazing, and yeah, honestly, I cannot wait to see what they have in store next because every single episode, despite the fact that it ends with, oh, he goes off to whatever, and it kind of ties up in a neat little bow, every single episode so far has ended with, oh, I just need to see the next thing right now. I don't care what it is, I don't care how it is, I just need to see it right now. And I have to wait another week. Yeah. I'll wait, but yeah. Uh, I think that's all we can say. So, guys,
Pretty
please let us know in the comments what you thought about this episode. What were your thoughts on Baby Yoda getting rescued by the Mandalorian, not being handed over to the client and the doctor? Let us know in the comments below. Of course, like the video; it helps us a lot. We do need the likes, and of course, the subscription. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me crying myself to sleep because technology. But otherwise, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, Letterboxd, and Discord at Skywalker Doman. You guys can follow Dedicated Art on Twitter and Instagram at D2A Channel. Please like our Facebook page, join our Facebook group. Give me some support on there, please, because I'm seriously having a rough day. And of course, last night we dropped our latest episode of the Who Cares Anyway podcast, where we sat down with the one and only JTE, the man of many memes himself.
Indeed, Josh Tapia, Josh the engineer. You know him from the movie Trivia Shimoda, and if you watch that once or twice, uh, he's in a lot. He's been in a while. Anyway, you can follow me at Dutch Movie Guy on Twitter, Case Fernandez on Facebook and Letterboxd. Of course, right here, reviewing The Mandalorian and Resistance, Star Wars Resistance. Always, also a show that we do every week. So check our reviews out if you watch the show. You should watch the show. It's a good show. Um, even though season two has not been that good. Anyway, in the meantime, uh, wait for our next video to drop, and of course,
Manners maketh Mandalorian.
and may the force be with you always.